so many aspects happening on one day that are incredibly powerful and not easy. We could have some kind of epidemic coming for August and September. Things will settle down and become more peaceful. And of course, this is temporary, because get ready, 2030 is another Pisces. I'm looking at the Uranus-Pluto trine as a change of consciousness happening on the planet. Our consciousness will be elevated. But right now, all this darkness is being exposed so that we can heal it. And it's going to put humanity in a whole different level. There's a certain point when we get close to the galactic center. That's the closest to God consciousness and awareness that we come into. I'll tell you what else this is about in the September eclipse, the solar eclipse that we're going to have. This is very near and close to my heart. It breaks my heart. But this is what eclipses do sometimes. Eclipses, number one, in my opinion, are the most important tools for prediction. Because let's consider what an eclipse is. It is the darkening of the light. So when you consider a solar eclipse is actually a new moon. But what happens with eclipses is they're tied up with the nodal axes, which is Rahu and Ketu, which in Western astrology, Rahu is the north node of the moon and Ketu is the south node of the moon. But for those of the people here that don't understand anything to do with astrology, just realize that these nodal axes are really points in space that connect the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. And as the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon align, therefore they're aligned with the nodal axes, Rahu and Ketu. Because actually these are just points in space where the moon hits the ecliptic, and the ecliptic is the path of the sun around the earth. So where the moon hits the ecliptic going upward, that's Rahu. Where it hits the ecliptic going downward, that's Ketu. They're always exactly opposite. So it's like, I call it an axis. So these points in space, when they line up with the sun and the moon and the earth, then the earth will cast a shadow on the sun or the moon gets darkened, or the sun gets darkened. And when this happens, I always say something comes out that we didn't know. And eclipses aren't rare, by the way. They happen twice a year because it's every time you have the new moon or the full moon that comes together with the nodal axes. And there's this darkening of the light. And what's so powerful about eclipses is in the darkness, something comes out we didn't know. And boy, are there a lot of things coming out that we didn't know all of this time. You know, it's like every time we turn around or we listen to any media, there's another scandal coming out, isn't there? That's what this is about. But I'll tell you what else this is about in the September eclipse, the solar eclipse that we're going to have, is that the eclipse itself is exactly opposed Saturn. So, and remember, I do Vedic sidereal astrology, so my placements are different than Western tropical. So I'm looking at, and what is the difference? Well, let me explain that really quickly. So with Vedic sidereal, it is the true placements astronomically where the planets are. And this is really based on the stars. So it's really star-based, but Western astrology is based on the sun and it's tropical. But these are the true placements. I love Vedic astrology because of that. But going back to this eclipse and what I see happening, well, it's going to be around 4 degrees of Virgo. And get this, Saturn is exactly 4 degrees of Pisces during this eclipse. And this eclipse happens September 21st. So here's the thing, Saturn is karma. And it has been riding along with Neptune. Saturn and Neptune have been exactly conjunct pretty much June, July, and August. And really September, they're within 1 degree still, so they're still conjunct. And the reason why is they both turned retrograde in July. Actually, July 4th, Neptune turned retrograde, and I think it was the 12th, Saturn turned retrograde. So when planets turn retrograde, they station. And what that means is when they're moving forward, they pretty much stop. That's a station before they start to move backwards. So in that process, when they're standing still, planets are 10 times more powerful. So in other words, Saturn and Neptune kind of remain close together because of their retrograde process. But let me get going to what this means. So I'm looking at the Saturn-Neptune. Saturn is karma. Saturn is reality, while Neptune is illusions, secrets, and scandals. So what's been happening over this whole period of the Saturn-Neptune is that all these things that have been hidden for so long are surfacing. The truth is coming out. And this eclipse where something comes out that we didn't know about, there's more to come, yes, than what we're talking of, than what we see right now. This is like the truth is coming out. And in order to heal, we have to know what we have to heal. Therefore, the truth is what it's all about. And I will say this, it's pretty dark and dirty, and I don't like looking at it. But the shadow side we have to see in order to heal. And that's what eclipse brings out. The shadow side. It is the shadows.
Is it something that like we're releasing some shadows on this side of the eclipse as we're moving into the other side of the eclipse, depending on the nature of the eclipse that we're facing as well? Because there's a lot of things that are surfacing at the moment.
Yes.
There's like these Epstein files. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming to light. I mean, there's, all this, I don't even want to bring it into the field, but do you know what I mean? There's this, like P. Diddy, like all this sort of stuff is going on, and all this truth seems to be this real under the expose type sort of thing happening at the moment.
It is. And it's all connected, all of it. And it's been going on for a really long time. And the truth is finally coming out. The truth heals, that's the old adage, and it's true. So this is what I see with this eclipse, and it's really going to bring out things. And let me say this too, Saturn's karma. So guess what? Karmic repercussions, things have to be paid. This karma, people don't get away with things, even though it seems like it, but now is where the karma is really coming out. Some other things that Neptune and Saturn rule are cults. And really a lot of what's going to come out is about different cults. It's like, with all this craziness with Epstein and all of that, it does revolve around some really dark issues of controlling the mind. That's what cults are. And another thing that Neptune and Saturn rule, watch how this comes about. Neptune rules gas and oil, while Saturn rules crude oil. And with them being activated together, there's going to be a jump in oil prices. And another thing I failed to mention is that Mars is going to be activating all of this throughout most of August and September. So what I'm trying to say is Mars is going to be in Virgo around the place that this solar eclipse happens at 4 degrees of Virgo. And anytime I've seen Mars oppose Neptune, it always spikes the fuel prices, gasoline prices. So there's going to be something that either there's going to be a blockage of the ships the tankers that ship the oil to places, there's going to be something like that, or either some explosive event, maybe some tankers with oil on them. But a lot is going to happen with oil and gas, and the prices are going to go up. Mark my words. But one more thing that's interesting about this eclipse is with this sidereal astrology I'm using, the sun-moon conjunctions at 4 degrees of Virgo, but Rahu and Ketu Ketu is sitting in Leo and Rahu's in Aquarius. Now, like I said, they have to come together. They're out of sign. What an eclipse is where the nodal axis is within a certain degree portion of Rahu and Ketu. So it has to be within actually 18 degrees for it to be an eclipse. And they're actually 10 degrees apart, but they're in different signs sidereally. It may not be tropically, but it is sidereally. So this weakens the eclipse somewhat. It's not as terribly intense or bad as the eclipse that we had last April. April was a total solar eclipse. And then the one that we had October of 2024 was pretty total as well. But here's what happened. When you look at where eclipses are going to make their major impact in the world, it's called the eclipse path. And actually, you can go on NASA's website and look to see where is the eclipse path. What that simply means is where it's most visible on Earth, where it can be seen the clearest. And what is so amazing, Amrit, is that this eclipse path, it went right over where I'm living, directly, Dallas. And it went right, I've never seen a total solar eclipse like I did last April. It is so eerie. Everything went dark. At first it was getting dark and I thought, oh, is this all there is to it? This is nothing. It's just kind of, a little bit dark. No, it was like night for a few seconds. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's like crazy. A lot of people say, oh, don't ever go out and be out there in an eclipse. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm not afraid to or hide from the truth that what an eclipse is going to bring. But let me tell you what happened. The eclipse path crossed over right on Kerrville, Texas. Exactly. As a matter of fact, Kerrville, which is this beautiful place in the hill country, I was born and raised in Texas. I went to the University of Texas in Austin. I love the hill country. It's the most beautiful part of Texas. And there's this place called Kerrville, and they had the most visible scene for the eclipse, but there was a big X from the October eclipse and the April eclipse right over Kerrville. That is where the floods happened. In 45 minutes, the floods raised in the river. I think it was 26 feet or, buildings, and 45 minutes. And I'm sure you probably have heard what happened there. There was all the camps with the children. It was the 4th of July, which is America's celebration. Everyone goes to the hill country to celebrate and do fireworks. There's almost 300 people killed, and the thing that breaks my heart the most is the little girls. I can't talk about it too much, but I knew some of the children that were killed, and my granddaughter is supposed to go to that camp next year. So this is very near and close to my heart. It breaks my heart. But this is what eclipses do sometimes. And the crossing going over that city. And it was Neptune and Saturn that turned retrograde right at that time. What is Neptune? Floods and water. And not only that, they're in Pisces, which is the waters. And Saturn is difficult. And I tell everybody they were exactly on the fixed star sheet, which is the star of sorrow. And on top of that, they were in the nakshatra where, we've talked about this before, but there's 27 nakshatras that we use in Vedic astrology. And their meanings come from the stars. And this particular nakshatra that the Saturn-Neptune were conjunct in is called Uttara Bhadrapada. And its symbol is the funeral cot, the back end of a funeral cot. And here we go, all of the sorrow and death, right there where that eclipse crossed. This is the power of eclipses. So I didn't want to dwell too much in the past, but I wanted you to know what eclipses are capable of and to pay attention to where their path is. Now, the one in September, I looked, it's a partial eclipse. Those were total. Partials aren't near as severe, but they're still going to bring out things that we didn't know about that are happening, especially concerning this Neptune-Saturn, which deals with cults, which deals with floods, which deals with oil and gas.
Inspired souls and lumen beings, I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you that are subscribed to this podcast. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to this channel. Thank you so much for your incredible love and support. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, and join the movement spreading love, positivity, wisdom, and clarity like this around the planet, touchwood, together. Thank you so much in advance for your support. And if you want to dive in even deeper into the roots of the community, we recently hit 250,000 subscribers on the channel. Thank you so much for the overwhelming love and support you guys have for this content and this work. We're giving away access to the community online. You can find out more inspiredevolution.com/25 and 4 zeros, 250000 to celebrate hitting 250,000 subscribers. Join the community, guests like Joni Patry coming on once a month where you can ask your questions directly of them. We gather once a week in meditation, sharings, community offerings. There's so much goodness and a safe space created inside this community circle. So join us, inspiredevolution.com/250000. Links in the description below. Back to Joni.
Oh, I forgot one thing. While Mars is transiting in Virgo, Virgo is the sign of health and healing. And it's opposing Neptune. As a matter of fact, I think it's August 8th. August 8th is an incredibly powerful day for difficulty. And this is not the eclipse because that's in September. But I just want to say, I don't know when this is going to air, but August 8th, I must say, Mars will square Pluto. And Mars will oppose the Saturn-Neptune all at the same time. And Uranus is actually going to be in a quincunx too, which is a very difficult aspect. For those that don't know astrology, this is so many aspects happening on one day that are incredibly powerful and not easy. And here's what I think could come out of this, because Neptune can rule disease. And Mars is in the sign of health and healing. We could have some kind of flu epidemic coming for August and September. But I'm going to take the side of something more positive because I'm really getting tired of the negative, especially after what happened here in July. This can be the inventions or the realizations of some new healing technologies, because Neptune and Saturn will bring out the things that are hidden. And I think a lot of health and healing technologies have been hidden, if you know what I mean, with pharmaceuticals and things like that. And Mars is going to trigger this. So maybe because of some kind of epidemic that could come about, there will be a revelation in healing. New forms of healing that can give longevity, that can heal diseases that have been very hard to heal in the past. And actually, I have some really good news after all of these realizations of what's to come. And what I mean, what's to come with these eclipses, all this bringing out the things that have been hidden for so very long. The exposure of all of this is healing. Because what I'm looking forward to in the next few years is that some amazing healing modalities will come. And I'm thinking they're going to heal incurable diseases. And one that I suspect that's going to come about is going to be looking into curing diseases that are mental diseases. It can even deal with all sorts of things with the brain. So whatever you're thinking of with the brain, we know so little about the brain right now. And I'm thinking addictions, things like that can be healed. But this is like what I went back and did. Here's another project I did. And I know I showed you my book before, this one, World Predictions 2024 to 2042. And what I do with that is I actually, in this book, look at every single eclipse between 2024 to 2042. Because as I said, every time the nodal axis comes together with the sun and the moon and the earth, when everything aligns, that is when the truth comes out, when things are revealed, when things can be brought to the surface to be healed. Why are we here on earth in the first place? To heal our emotions, to heal our spirit, to evolve to a higher level of consciousness. That's what we're all here for. And these eclipses make us more aware. So even though I'm talking about world events, by the way, this always relates to us personally. So personally, every time around the eclipses, it's time to look within and ask, what is it that is being revealed to me about myself, about our shadow side or darker side, that I'm here to heal? So it's always an opportunity for healing, actually. And I think all the events that are happening globally that are so extreme with scandals and secrets and things coming out, this is all positive. Everything is happening for a divine reason because it's bringing us to a level of healing. And that's what it's really about. But going back to what I'm talking about with Rahu and Ketu, what I did in this book and what I always do is I go back to the last time we had these eclipses, right? Or when Rahu and Ketu were in the particular signs they're in right now. Let me explain one more thing. Rahu and Ketu are what cause eclipses. They come together with the sun and the moon. Therefore, really what we're looking at is where is Rahu and Ketu according to their sign placements. They stay in a sign for a year and a half, and they go through all 12 signs of the zodiac every 18 and a half years. So what I do is I go back and I look at the year that Rahu and Ketu, many years, and I do the research. What happened before? And let me tell you some of the things that happened before, which are quite amazing. Going back to where Rahu was in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo, there were so many discoveries. What I discovered was, I think the iPhone came out. And another time we put a man on the moon. Yes, we did, 1969. Plus, there was also, around this time, all these revolutionary discoveries. I think it was even the internet really was discovered around this time. So my whole point with discovering what this brings out is that there's going to be new inventions, new discoveries. And we know with AI, things are really about to change. This is going to change consciousness and the world. And a lot of people are afraid of AI with good reason. Kids going to school, are they really going to write their papers anymore? What about creative writers, which I've written so many books? What if, somebody just takes all of the written material that's out there and creates their own books? It's like, is it going to take away creativity? Is it going to take away children learning in school because we all get lazy? Like, the calculator certainly is taken away. I was with some people the other day that couldn't figure out how to do a tip in a restaurant. They had to get their calculator out. Back in my day, we did it in our head. But, we're all talking about this right now. This is nothing new. But I think there's going to be a level of discovery that's going to take us to another level that's positive. Instead of talking about the minuses, the pluses are going to be more spectacular. And yes, we're going to have space travel like never before. But space travel isn't going to be the way we think of it right now. It's like, it's more like Star Trek. In a second, you're there. It's not like combustion with fire and, to shoot rockets. It's the propulsion, but it's actually going to be something that we can't figure right now, but we're moving towards that. Do you really think that aliens use spaceships like rockets? No, they're so advanced. And that's where we're going to start heading with the AI and all the new discoveries. Why am I saying this? Because of the astrology. The astrology is telling me this, where Rahu and Ketu are, when they line up with Jupiter or Saturn, when Rahu and Ketu line up with Jupiter and Saturn, that means the eclipses are happening with them. So the eclipses are happening with Saturn-Neptune now, an outer planet in Saturn. And that's it's all bringing out. When the eclipses align also with these planetary conjunctions, this is where the events happen. So what I'm trying to say is Jupiter and Saturn, when they align with eclipses, they deal with the economy, by the way. These are called the social planets. If Jupiter deals with money, so does Saturn. And they're going to change how we look at and work with money too. So Saturn is lined up with these eclipses, right? Especially the September eclipse. And there's going to be a big shift in the economy coming up. I keep saying there's going to be something that brings it down, but right after it springs right back. As a matter of fact, I think in September, we're going to see some unusual highs in the economy, in the stock market and the economy. Something's going to elevate it suddenly and unexpectedly. Do you have any questions? I've been talking for so long.
Well, for me, the big thing that was incumbent upon me to ask upon was this because you've mentioned this a bit, is the sorrow element. Because I think a lot of people are feeling a lot of loss, a lot of grief. I know it's probably inappropriate to talk too much about it here in this podcast, but there was two elements, like the sorrow that everybody's feeling and going through. I think there's a whole thing going on there. And then also this element of, I couldn't help but be fascinated by you've predicted so many things, and then when some of these predictions touch so close to home, like Joni, just the internal fortitude, the internal sort of, how does one even begin to navigate the prediction and the foreboding of the prediction, and then watching how things happen. And you going through your sorrow as well, how do you navigate this? And it's like, okay, it was all written in the stars in some way, but then it's like, it doesn't make it okay, it's touch wood. It's.
Yeah. So astrology is a tool for guidance. That's what it was given to us for. So some people say, well, why, don't tell me about all these negative things, but they're not negative. These things need to happen to heal. And, people say, oh, is there gloom and doom? It's really not. I'm really looking towards a really good time coming, especially in the next year or two. But personally, astrology is such a wonderful tool for self-guidance. And, knowing where these eclipses are occurring in your personal chart will actually tell you where there's going to be the greatest change happening in that year, because that's where Rahu and Ketu are. And they always indicate radical, big changes. They're life-changing. And so if you know where an eclipse is, and every year the nodes travel backwards, they will be in a different house every year and a half, because wherever they are is where the eclipse energy is. So if you have eclipse energy in your 7th house, it will affect your marriage. If you have an eclipse happening in your 1st house, then you're going to change your whole appearance. If you have an eclipse happening in your 10th house, you're going to change something about your career or your job. If it's in your 6th house, it will affect your health. So it's so important to know these things because I am a firm believer in free will. I think we can change things. That's why we want to know, not so we just white knuckle it till something happens. No, we want to know. Although I will say this, Amory, Neptune is the worst to me. Why? Because it blinds us where we can't see things. And it's like when I think about that flood with those children, I can't stop thinking about those little girls. It's like, how could we have avoided that? Well, for one thing, you don't put camps on floodplains like that in Texas, number one. At least from this, we know what not to do, and it probably won't happen for a very, very, very long time again. But still, Neptune is this blinding force where you can't see what's happening. It's so weird, but it's so true, because even in my own personal life, I'll tell you, when Neptune was transiting, opposing my moon many, many years ago, my sister died. And it was like exact. Did I think it was my sister? Yeah, I kind of did. But I was thinking about friends and associates and other people that Neptune could deal with deception. But it was actually, it caught me blindsided. And when it happened, it's just like these floods. I'm telling you, Neptune causes us to not see clearly. And that's why it deals a lot with cults, but it also deals a lot with, if you read an astrology book, it'll tell you Neptune is spirituality. And to be honest with you, rarely is it spirituality. You know what it really and truly is? Are ways that we escape the world, because Neptune's all about escaping something. So that's why it rules death, because that's one way we escape the world. It rules tsunamis and floods, and it also rules sort of like anything to do with what the 12th house in astrology is about: prisons, ashrams. And it deals with cults, because a cult is something where we escape the reality of this world. We're looking for something beyond this world that's higher, better, beyond. But it's not reality. So you put Saturn, the planet of reality, with Neptune, we're being woken up to all that was a big escape. And you know something else I forgot to tell you? Neptune rules drugs and alcohol. That's a way that we escape the world, right? So when you put that, a lot of people, I find it so interesting, this younger generation is choosing not to drink anymore. This is a big positive trend. And also, we're cleaning up all the drugs that have been infiltrating, or at least we're going in the right direction with this anyway. But Neptune, when it conjoined Saturn before, dealt with so many instances of drugs being invaded into different cultures, destroying them. So Neptune rules drugs and alcohol as well. So you'll see a big trend to end all of the excess with both those things, which is something very positive and healing. Yes.
This podcast is brought to you by my one-to-one mentorship. The podcast is designed to inspire your evolution onwards, upwards, and inwards. And if you're ready to dive in even deeper and evolve your career, your leadership, and business in a conscious direction, and you believe that alignment to your purpose and your soul's direction is the only way to truly thrive into your highest potential, and right now you can feel that guidance, mentoring, and coaching would be of support, then my one-to-one mentorship, coupled with our incredible conscious group masterminds, is here for you. Thousands of people have evolved through my mentoring over the last 10 years. It is, after all, my highest calling, and here's what they have to say about how it's transformed their life.
I don't even recognize myself from 3 years ago. I don't recognize myself from a year ago. All of these things that I've been wanting to manifest in my life, I have them now.
This entire year has been a complete transformation.
He is literally just there to put wind in your sails.
He really seems to
love his work and his clients. He's going to squeeze all the juice out of life and encourage his clients to do the same.
Amrit definitely delivered more than I expected. I was able to steer it in the right way, the way my soul needed to hear. I think that's what makes him so unique as a coach.
He's wonderful. He really can help to do wonders with your project. Go for it.
So if you're ready to dive in even deeper to take your inspirations and truly evolve, then make your way over to my website at amritsandhu.com. I'll put a link in the description below. You don't have to go it alone. There's one-to-one mentoring and an incredible community mastermind of conscious leaders, entrepreneurs, and people transforming their careers and business into full alignment with their soul's highest calling, creating a life that inspires them on the deepest level, living into their greatest impact. And as many of you know, connection is my highest value, so I'm looking forward to connecting with you. Use the button below, use the link below, amritsandhu.com/call. That's AMRIT Sandhu, SANDHU.com/call. It's on screen for you now. And if you follow that link, you'll be able to book in a call directly with me. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. So go on, I'll see you there. You had some very interesting predictions earlier in the year for nuclear war coming through mid-2025 and some of this like tensions that were brewing. And I mean, it did get really tense there for a little bit with, well, what's going on. I mean, even just last month in the Middle East. Are we, in your opinion, are we through that now based on what you see in the astrology? Like, is the situation as diffused as it's going to be, or are we still kind of touch and go here?
We're still touch and go here. We're not out of the waters at all. But I noticed there was a time coming up here, I think it is in September, where, yes, it is. And actually, yes, it's in September, where Uranus and Pluto are going to be in an exact trine. And actually, where this new moon sits, this solar eclipse, it's in a grand trine. And Uranus is sudden, unexpected events. Pluto is atomic energy. When Pluto was discovered, that's when nuclear energy began. So it's like this. I'm a big, proponent of using the outer planets. And what's interesting is in Vedic astrology, they say you can't use the outer planets, or at least that's what they told me many years ago before I started. Because remember, I did Western astrology for 20 years before I started into Vedic. I've been an astrologer for 45 years, or, I don't like to say that, but but it is a fact. And but looking at this, the outer planets, when they came into our being, they influenced us so heavily as to what their energies were all about. So Pluto was discovered in atomic nuclear energy came in. Neptune was discovered, and get this, it was when photography and videos or silent movies came into being. And so what is Neptune? The things we can't see, the things that aren't real, right? And that's what a movie is. That's what photography is. It's something that looks real, but it's not. And so it brought that into being. And when Uranus was discovered, the whole Industrial Revolution came into being. Uranus rules discoveries and the future. So each of these planets brought that into being. So, but going back to the Vedic concept of not using them, I don't use them in terms of ruling houses in a chart. But anytime an outer planet is really close to one of your inner planets, that inner planet, what I mean by an inner planet is one that's visible to the naked eye, is so heavily influenced, that planet doesn't operate the same. Because here's the thing with the outer planets, they rule the collective unconscious. So as they move, and they move very slow, they create huge, big trends in our society, in our world, and change things dramatically. And I often think that these outer planets, as they do change signs, as they do conjunct other planets, such as Uranus coming together, trining in an aspect called a trine to Pluto, this opens the door to some kind of unexpected event with power or nuclear energy, okay? And the Saturn-Neptune, see, Neptune's influencing Saturn right now. So they don't rule houses, but they influence the planets they're next to, but they influence the whole collective consciousness. And as these outer planets actually change signs or aspect one another, they actually elevate human consciousness. So I'm looking at the Uranus Pluto trine as a change of consciousness happening on the planet. We are going through a big change where things will never be the same. We can't go back to thinking the old way. Things are opening in a new way. Our consciousness will be elevated. And boy, do we need that right now. But right now, all this darkness is being exposed so that we can heal it. And it's going to put humanity in a whole different level. And that's the positive that I see. Consciousness is opening and it's expanding, and we're going to have people operating from a higher level of consciousness. And also with that, you're going to see that that's where all the invention comes about, the healing, and also the healing modalities that are going to be out there that can actually start healing diseases that we never thought we could heal before. We're going towards that. And I think life expectancy is going to be expanded. I hope it's not too far out where it's not going to be helpful for me. It'll be helpful for you, Henry. But yeah, this is so exciting. And going back to the fact that astrology is here for our guidance. And I told you this before, but Jyotish is what Vedic astrology is called in India. It's actually called that in the ancient Vedas. That's why we call it Vedic astrology, because the oldest reference to astrology is in the ancient Vedic scriptures, which is some of the oldest scriptures that were passed down through oral tradition even. And, it came into being as written. But I'll tell you, in the ancient Vedas, Jyotish is called the science of light. And in these scriptures, all of these different, like yoga and all these different techniques, Ayurveda, they are attributed to different parts of the body of man. And astrology are the eyes of the Vedas. So what does that tell you? If astrology is the eyes in the Vedas and it's the science of light, it gives us vision into the darkness to see the things we need to see. I believe astrology is the most divine tool given to us by the divine to help us, give us guidance. Because if we know where the planetary energies are going, we're better equipped for guidance in our personal lives and as a society and a humanity.
It's really interesting. There was a moment there where I almost threw the book out on both Western and Vedic astrology because I was looking at this sidereal tropical thing. I'm almost embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to admit that, but anyway. And I was like, how can I be Taurus rising in tropical and then all of a sudden be Aries rising when it comes to sidereal and Vedic? And it was really interesting to sort of, for a moment there, I was like, oh, this is all turning into codswallop. Like, this is, how can they both be accurate, but they both be so different? And it took me a good month to really settle into this awareness of the Western astrology is actually pinned to the beginning of the spring season here on Earth. And it's just sort of locked into that. And we do naturally have this cycle of like, winter, summer, winter, summer, spring, and autumn, however they sort of play out. And that does influence our mood. And, people have like SADs, like the summer syndromes where they don't get enough sun. So that does influence us internally in terms of our personality. And I think Western astrology is, well, the Hellenic astrology is really pinned to that. But then, like you said, it's almost like the Vedic astrology is actually lined up perfectly to actually what's going on astronomically, and the Earth is consistently shifting. And what came to my awareness, what I'd love to get you to clarify this, I might be wrong in my ways, is for our personalities and our temperament, the way that we're sort of navigating the world, Western astrology is quite helpful because we are also, like, in terms of personality, are seeing the world that way in terms of the seasons that are playing out in front of our very eyes, because you mentioned the word eyes. But then also in terms of actually predicting what's happening, Western astrology not as strong because it's actually not aligned to what's going on cosmically with the stars. And, so I'm looking at your work and, how, like, freakishly, I'm just going to call it, accurate your predictions are. And it's like, this is what's actually going on in the stars and actively what's, the influence of the energetics of the cosmic planets and the cosmic, beings like, around us, bodies, I should say. And that's actually influencing us. So I almost ended up with this visual of, like, on this side of the atmosphere, Western astrology, very helpful for understanding your personality. And on the other side of the atmosphere, Vedic astrology, like the pros choice tool for actual predictions. Have I oriented myself correctly? Can you iron out any kinks that I might have in my awareness based around what I've just shared?
Well, I'm surprised it only took you a month to... Because those people struggle with that. I did for probably a year. How can my sun be in Scorpio, but I'm a Libra in Vedic? Because they are so different. And, the more I struggled with it, we are kind of like brainwashed that we're a certain way. And we get so attached to those definitions of the signs. But yes, Western is so personality based. And you know what I tell a lot of my clients? You already know your personality. Let's get on to what's really happening in your life. I mean, who needs to tell you about your personality? It's like, of course you know your personality. But it is amazing when you get a chart reading, you're going, well, how did they know that? I know that, but how did they know that? But with the Vedic, you really can see. I go back, I can tell them exactly what happened to them as a child. I can give them events that happened when they moved or when specific things, when they got married, when they had children, or when they will. Because it is so clear in the Vedic chart. We have something called the Dashas. And the Dashas are based on the nakshatras. Remember I told you these nakshatras? And the nakshatras there's 27 of them. And what is so cool about these nakshatras is they're relative to the lunar calendar, which is 27 days. Western astrology and the calendar that we use, the Gregorian calendar, I mean, really, I don't know if I expressed this to you before, but Augustus and Julius Caesar fought out over having July and August, their months, and that they're 31 days. How accurate is this? But the lunar calendar is so accurate because, it even reflects a woman's cycle. There's 27 nakshatras. And here's the defining point. Each nakshatra, if you take the whole zodiac, which is 360 degrees, the circle around the earth. And of course the signs, you divide the signs up. There's 12 signs, so each portion is 30 degrees. But the nakshatras are 13-degree, 20-minute portions of this 360-degree zodiac. So if you take the 360-degree wheel and divide it up into 27 portions, they will be 13 degrees, 20 minutes. Did you know that that's the mean motion of the moon per day? It's so divinely accurate with the mathematical formulas. It blows my mind. And when you really get into all the divisional charts and, the D9, the Navamsha and all this, it's just phenomenal how mathematically correct everything is. But going back to the moon and the nakshatras, when you find out where your moon is, what nakshatra it's in, all the 27 nakshatras, just like the signs, are ruled by a planet. So whatever nakshatra your natal moon is in, the planet that rules that nakshatra will start your whole life cycle out. And your whole life cycle, the dashas go for 120 years. So imagine that. We're probably supposed to live to 120, but our lifestyle doesn't support that, does it? So all the stress and the poisons that we consume and we breathe, but that's the way I think it's supposed to be, because this whole dasha scheme is 120 years. Each of these cycles, when you go in and out of a cycle, your whole life changes dramatically, because it depends on how that planet is placed in your birth chart as to what your experiences will be. So for example, if you go into Rahu's cycle and Rahu's in the 7th house, then you're going to be issues around relationships, bringing relationships in or leaving relationships, but it will definitely have to do with that. But I kid you not, the minute you change, well, not the minute, but the time around when you change a cycle, your whole life will change dramatically. I go through these cycles with my clients and they're just like, how in the world did you know that? And it's like, it's so easy. It's outlined right here on paper and I show them the dates and everything. And it's just an incredibly profound and accurate system for predictions. And then we throw in the transits. And then I love all the things with the eclipses, because essentially an eclipse is where Rahu and Ketu are. And those are the determining points of our destiny. Truly, Rahu and Ketu, that axis is, Rahu is said to be where our future is, our destiny, what we came here to do, while Ketu is essentially our past, what we've been really good with already in our past lives, and what, is very comfortable what we have to do. But Ketu and Rahu, they bring us into things, and Ketu is where we're comfortable. But then again, when you look at this nodal axis, it can be very where the change is. Like when you look at we look at a birth chart, you see where they are in your birth chart, and that will tell you what is your destiny. What are you here to do? Where Rahu is. Ketu is what you've probably been really good with and you're comfortable with. But where they continue to move, and that's the transiting planets, we plug them into your chart. So in other words, if you have an Aries rising, ascendant, we call it Lagna in Vedic, but if you have an Aries ascendant and Rahu comes into Aries, it means it's in your 1st house, but that means Ketu is transiting your 7th house. Therefore, you're becoming empowered and strong, you personally. But Ketu can cause some difficulties. It can cause some losses. And I'm talking about the transits, not the natal personal connections. Because the ones, well, I will say this, where Rahu is going to be where you aspire to. But where Ketu is where you still have old karmic residue. Even though it's what I said, it's what you've already been used to doing. Ketu actually is loss. That's one of the keywords for it. And I always say Rahu brings us into the world because it deals with your desires, what you want to achieve in this life. Where Ketu takes us out of the world, it deals with death and loss and endings. But wherever you have Ketu in your chart, will reveal where something is missing, where you feel like something's not whole or complete. It's like a drain. It's like something's being sucked out. You can't get enough of it, and it's not whole and complete. So if, let's go back to, I know I'm being confusing, but if they're transiting and Ketu is in your 7th house, you're going to have issues in relationship and marriage. But if you were born with this, let's say Rahu's in your 1st house and Ketu's in your 7th house. Remember, they're always opposite. Then that means there's something about marriage and relationships that never seems to be whole or complete for you. And really, what it means is you've left off some kind of karma unfinished karma that you're here to complete. So if you have Ketu in the 7th house, it doesn't mean that your relationships are always going to be lacking and not good, but it means you left off in a past life with that. Therefore, you're here to heal it. And yes, you're going to experience that. But if you heal it in this lifetime, then it's whole and complete. You finished it. Therefore, you finished that karmic lesson you came here to do, and you don't have to repeat it in another lifetime. And then as they're transiting, as like, for example, if you have Rahu in the 11th house and Ketu in the 5th house, exactly opposite. Rahu in the 11th house, you're going to be meeting new people, new friends, new groups, new organizations are going to open up for you. But Ketu in the 5th house, if you have children, you might be an empty nester that year. You see, it's something temporary. You weren't born with it, but during that year and a half that they're in those particular houses, you experience these things. But when you're born with it, with Ketu in the 5th house and Rahu in the 11th house, the 11th house deals with your friends, your groups, your people. You will come to know a lot of very influential people if Rahu is transiting in your 11th house. But Ketu being in your 5th house, you might worry about your children. You'll be obsessed with, taking care of your children, but it could mean that they're just simply leaving the house too. So, but if you're born with it, with Ketu in the 5th house, you worry excessively about your kids. It's not that you're going to lose a child. No, that's not the case. I know so many people with Ketu in the 5th house. And what we call them is helicopter moms, because they're always worried about them. It's never, enough attention that they can give to their children. So it's so interesting that the nodal axes, Rahu and Ketu, are so vitally important to understand not only who we are, but what we're here to experience in our life. And with the whole predictive tool of the dashas and the transits, because I always, really, when I look at a chart, the main features you look at are where are Rahu and Ketu transiting, where is Jupiter and Saturn transiting. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And when it transits any house, that area of life will expand. If it's in your 7th house, then you might meet someone and get married. If Saturn's in your 7th house, you might have problems in your relationship. They're kind of opposite. So this is the Jupiter, Saturn, the Rahu, Ketu. And if Ketu is transiting your 10th house is your career. I guarantee you're going to have major changes in your work. And you're going to feel like your work isn't satisfying anymore. You'll probably change jobs, or either the company you work for will go through a major overhaul or change. That's a given. I've never seen this not work. But then again, Rahu will be in your 4th house. And if your job changes, it may make you relocate, because the 4th house is where you live. It's your home, your family. So you see this opposition as it goes through the 12 houses. You can absolutely see what direction your life's going and what things are going to change. And the dashas are the big picture, but the transits are more specifically what's going on day in to day out throughout the years.
Inspired souls, human beings, what are you taking away from today's episode? Joni's likely to come back in the future, so leave some questions that you've got of her, and I might be able to ask them the next time she comes back on your behalf. What is your biggest takeaway from today's episode? I'd love for you to join in on the conversation in the comments below. Back to Joni. You actually teach people, semester 1, you take people through a university to actually be able to study Vedic astrology. Can you tell us just like a quick little soundbite in terms of what goes on there?
Okay, so I always say this. One of my greatest accomplishments in life, besides my 3 sons, I always say that because my 3 sons are everything and they're my greatest accomplishment, but is the University of Vedic Astrology. And I started it around 2017, and has grown to be such an amazing online self-paced tool to learn Vedic astrology. Because here's the thing, Vedic astrology is very complex, and you're going to need a teacher, and you're going to need guidance, and you're going to need help. I have live classes every week, and I'm there to answer all the students' questions as well. Everyone, it's live. And so probably it takes about a year, if you go slowly, to go through the whole university. We have this huge family of astrologers. We all work together, and it's so much fun. And literally, I have somebody almost in every country. I tell people, if you have this calling, and believe me, when you have this calling, you know, because all you think about is astrology. Every time something happens in the world, you go, wonder where the planets are, wonder what their chart looks like. Then you have the calling, and you've got to go with it. And my big deal is, and I've told you this before, Anne-Marie, I want to make Vedic astrology mainstream. We got to get it out to the world. This is the most valuable tool to help give us all guidance in all aspects of our lives, even for children, to know what they're good at, so that children don't have to waste time in areas that they don't have their gifts and their talents. This is all in their chart.
I'll put a link to the astrology
so it's universityofvedicastrology.com.
I'll put a link to that below.
Okay.
Looking at the book that you wrote, 2012 to 2042, I mean, is there a particular, you chose that window of time. When do you see us coming into more like a period of genuine global peace and prosperity? Did you choose that window because of the tumultuousness of that entire window, or are there actually, like, do we clear out at some point into just more peace, more prosperity? Like, does that happen? Does that come at some point?
Well, yeah. Well, here's what I want to say. Planet Earth is never, ever going to be a place of peace and utopia. It wasn't built to be that way. We all come here to learn and grow. There's the duality, right? Everything is yin and yang, black and white, male, female, night and day, sun and moon. This is the duality of this planet. So my point is with saying that we're going to go through cycles of good times, but we're going to go back to cycles of bad times. And yes, we do become more aware and more conscious as the evolution goes on. As a matter of fact, in the whole process of precession of the equinoxes, you're going to find that there is a point in the 26,000 year cycle, and this whole cycle is called the ages of mankind. Right now, we're in the Pisces age. We're not quite into the age of Aquarius, but it takes 26,000 years to go through all these ages. And they do say that there's a certain point when we get close to the galactic center. That's why I named my business that's the closest to God consciousness and awareness that we come into. So I love saying galactic center. But here's the thing. 2,000 years ago was the darkest time on Earth. And, that was like the Kali Yuga. A lot of people say we're out of the Kali Yuga. We just left it. Some say we are. We're right there at that cusp, though. But my point is, 2,000 years ago, in the cyclic process of 26,000 years, the point that is halfway is when we are closest to the galactic center, and that is where consciousness is the highest. And therefore, in this whole process, that means about 13,000 years in this process will be at the highest point. But at the lowest point, we're only 2,000 years away. So in other words, we got about 11,000 years before we go to the highest point. But then it evolves backwards to the darker point. But that's just to give you an idea that we will come into more conscious times here on Earth. But there's always that duality of good and bad, black and white, good and evil, whatever you want to call it. But this depicts that, what I'm trying to say, it's never going to be perfect here. That's why we come into a good point and then it gets difficult again. So asking about where there's a good point that we're coming to, I really think, and a lot of people, see it differently, even astrologers, that 2026, 2027 will be good. And here's why I believe that. Jupiter is going to come into the sign of Cancer, and that is its exaltation sign, and that deals with spirituality. It deals with truth. It deals with the piousness of reality in the most spiritual sense. And I know Jupiter goes into Cancer every 12 years, but this one's a little bit different. And what I've noticed is it's coming across certain leaders in the world too that will change things for the better. So, and this aspect, while Jupiter is in Cancer, it's going to be opposed by Pluto. Pluto's in Capricorn right now. And this opposition brings power and awareness to the truth and spirituality. Actually, this is going to be about a year from now, June and July of 2026. And at the same time, Uranus is still casting a trine to Pluto while Pluto aspects Jupiter. I think this will bring up the economy, bring up the awareness. Things will settle down and become more peaceful. And I think the economy is going to be so much better around the world. And of course, this is temporary. It's going to be here for the 2026, 2027, because get ready, 2030 is another crisis. It looks really, really difficult. And I can't even wrap my head around what it's going to be about, but I think it has something to do with, well, Saturn's going to be conjunct Ketu. Losses, Saturn. Now, this happens, Saturn comes together with Ketu, let me remind you, every 12 years, but not in Taurus. And the ancient seer said when Saturn goes into Taurus, and especially when it goes into the nakshatra Rohini, expect some cataclysmic, difficult things to happen. And Saturn did this on September 11th, 2001. So I'm thinking it's something, I don't know if it's war attack, but it's really something dire because Mars is going to be there too. Mars is a big trigger of things. Mars goes to the whole zodiac every 2 years. But as we have these long-standing transits that can come together and last for a couple of years, it's Mars that comes around and hits them. And that's the day it happens. That actually happened on 9/11. We had Jupiter conjunct Rahu in Gemini, and Mars was conjunct Ketu in Sagittarius. And it was when Mars came up and hit and triggered the nodal axes in Jupiter that 9/11 happened on that day. So that's one thing. And actually, let me say this too. Remember, I was talking about the whole cycle of Rahu and Ketu taking 18 and a half years. Well, I know I've told everybody a million times why I wrote this book. Because I saw every time Rahu went into Gemini and Ketu went into Sag, something catastrophic happened. It did. And I discovered that, and I predicted COVID because it was right before COVID happened. And I'm looking at this. There's Jupiter in Gemini and Ketu and Sag, and Mars is coming around to hit it again. I said, something catastrophic is going to happen that changes our world. COVID happened. And of course, I've told you a million times, but those that are watching this for the first time, going back before COVID, 9/11 happened then, 18 and a half years prior to that. The AIDS virus hit, 18 and a half years, 1963, Kennedy's assassination, and the time before that, 1945, bombing of Hiroshima. So I wanted to write this book where I went into the year that it's going to go there again, which is 2038. So I wanted it in writing, as I told you, just in case I'm not here during that time. I wanted people to be able to prepare.
Joni, there's this, I know dashas are like these periods of your life that you're going through, but then I couldn't help but reflect on the word doshas and Ayurveda, and you mentioned the Vedic, the Vedic system, and it's so beautiful to visualize the the Jyotish, the astrology, as the eyes of the Vedic man. One of the, I'm always picturing the Vitruvian man, but anyway, it's interesting. Touch wood, you said you've been studying for 45 years. I dare not date you because I know that's rude. But one of the things is you embody health. And one of the key things in there I wanted to just poke and prod and just find out a little bit, like, has like understanding astrology or the Vedic system supported you in your health and wellness? And if so, how?
In health and wellness, is that what I heard you
has
say?
it been supportive for you in particular?
Well, the most important thing, I think, is to be aware of who you are and healing emotional issues. You don't know how many people have so many deep, dark emotional issues. And here's another thing, if their life's not working the way they want it to, that's an emotional issue from the past that's holding you back. With astrology, you can see it. You can know what it is. And if you know what it is, then you know what you're working with and you're dealing with, just like what I'm talking about right now, all these things coming out in the world. If we know what the culprit is, we know what to do. It's almost like when you get a diagnosis when you're sick, at least you know what to do then. So this is so important to health and healing, because you have to know that all health revolves around emotional issues. It truly does. And, and it's all karmic and lessons and everything we bring into this life, even from our past lives, a lot of unfinished business that we're here to heal. But when we heal it, our health gets better. Our physical health, because you got to know health is body, mind, emotions, and spirit. That is what needs to heal in order to have a true physical healing. So astrology does that. Now, if you want to just look at health and healing in particular, let's say somebody's got a difficult problem with their health, you can also see that as well. As a matter of fact, in my university, in the last semester, I have people look at charts and tell me what is the disease that this person died from, because you can see it. And that tells you what parts of the body to build, to reinforce. You can see if the heart is weak. You can see if the blood flow's weak. You can see if the kidneys are weak. You can see if there's a problem with your head or your throat. And therefore, before it becomes an issue, you're able to work on it and heal it and strengthen this area of your life. As a matter of fact, I had a client, this is no joke. And I was looking at his chart. Actually, you're not going to believe this, but I was looking at his daughter's chart. He was having me read his daughter's chart. She's young. And I was looking at his daughter's chart, and I could see from his daughter's chart that her father was going to have problems with his heart right then. And I told him, I said, look, I don't want to scare you or anything, but I can see it in your daughter's chart. You've got an issue with your heart, and I want you to go to the doctor as soon as you can and get it checked out. He followed my advice, because I've read for him for years. He knew to follow my advice. He went to the doctor and they put a stent in immediately and said he would have been dead within days if he hadn't gone to the doctor. Is this not a valuable tool for health and healing?
I'm kind of speechless.
Sorry. You look shocked. That's why I'm laughing. Your facial expression's making me laugh.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, invaluable. That he's still here. I mean, that's so.
Yeah, he's still
incredible.
here, and he nothing feels better than when you have somebody come back and say, "Thank you. You saved my life, or you changed my life," and this has been the most gratifying thing for people to come back and give thanks, because nothing feels better than to help people through astrology. Nothing.
I love that. So eclipse coming up this year. Any particular words of advice in terms of how to navigate it as we're going through? Any last pieces of advice there for us, or anything else you'd like to share that prepares us for maybe not even just the eclipse, the end of the year, as we're navigating the end of 2025 and moving into 2026?
So here is what I want everyone to realize, recognize. Right now, I want everyone to strengthen their immune systems, because I see Mars going into Virgo and it's opposing the Saturn-Neptune. And this could bring out, if anything, just a bad flu season. I don't think it's another pandemic. I think we're over that, but still, it's going to be flu season here in the Northern Hemisphere. And it's going to be what? You guys are going into spring.
Yeah.
So probably allergy season.
Touch wood.
No, there's always something, but okay. But here's the thing. If you strengthen your immune system, then this isn't going to hurt you. But you got to know ahead of time to do it. You don't wait till the transit's there and start doing it ahead of time. So that's what I'm going to say. And the other thing is world leaders, all this stuff, Rahu and Ketu. Actually, I think it's August and really throughout the end of the year. Rahu and Ketu are in Leo. Leo rules world leaders, and Ketu is in Aquarius, which rules humanity. So there's a big shift and changeover in world leaders. And you know how divisive and polarizing politics has been around the world. This is something that really invokes so much anger in people. Oh my God, they get so angry. I say, don't buy into the anger, because when you do, you're fueling the power of the world crises. And what this crisis is about is anger. Anger is poisonous to our body. Don't let things upset you. Here's how I go. Everything happens for a divine reason. And the people that may be in politics around the world are there for a reason, because it's going to happen. Maybe they intend to, or maybe the circumstances around them will bring out things that we all need to know that are going to heal our planet. We're all going towards a healing. So we can't get all up in arms about all this political garbage out there. Start coming from a place of that the divine is at work. The divine is going to heal us. The divine knows what's best for us, and everything's happening for a divine reason. And always reconnect with your spirit. Every day, we all must just go within and just connect, because we are connected to the divine. We are pretty much a part of God. So I don't mean going out there and looking for God outside of yourself. Look for that God within yourself. I always pray to Divine Mother. Divine Mother, it's like I need something that feels like a mother that's nurturing, that's healing. And I always feel okay afterwards, no matter what's going on in the world or even in my personal life or matters. But going back to what people need to be aware of. So the anger, it's going to be going crazy. All the things that come out in the news, don't buy into all that anger. It's going to make you sick, sicker than eating wrong or anything. You know, what is it that they say? I think it was Nelson Mandela. He said, anger is like drinking a poison and expecting that to kill your enemy. So this is important. And, you know, Mars has been together with Ketu. That riled up all this anger. Mars is anger. And while it's in Virgo, it's going to oppose Saturn. There's going to be crazy things going on in the world. But we have to know there's a divine reason for it. Let it go. And let go and connect with the divine. Connect with the God within you. And this eclipse, that's going to be happening the next go round. That's going to be happening in 6 months. Maybe you'll have me back for that. But that one's going to be a lot different. This one's more bringing things out in the open and healing. And that's what I want everyone to do also personally in your own life. If there's anything that you've been hiding from or any, secrets or things, trust me, they're going to come out. The truth has got to come out in order to heal everyone in your life, but most importantly, heal you. That's what we're all here for. That's what astrology is here to teach us. So we're going to use this planetary energy. You know what's interesting? The planets in Vedic astrology are called grahas. And what that means is to take and control us. So the planets actually take and control us. They grasp us. That's what they say, not control. They grasp us. But we have the power to let it go. And something some of the great saints have said, Paramahansa Yogananda, as well as Swami Sayutaswar, who was a Vedic astrologer and was Yogananda's teacher. He said, and Yogananda said, life is but a film. It's a movie. Don't get too attached to it. It's all an illusion. It's not real. We're all here to learn something. And the astrology gives us a better tool to see it clearly, because otherwise it's not so clear. It's hidden from us. And that's the beauty of Jyotish, the science of light, the eyes of the Vedas, and the great gurus and saints that used this astrology, taught this astrology, and actually got me to start looking into Vedic astrology. So did I answer your question?
Oh, Joni Patry, you have answered so many questions today. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for your time, your energy, and always sharing yourself so abundantly here with us, Joni, today. But then also just, the university, like just what you're doing to bring astrological awareness into normal people's lives. You can tell it's your entire life's work. And it's always it's riveting feeling into what, is possible using Vedic astrology, and then also just the grace with which you carry and share it with us all. I am so grateful and appreciative of you. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
I'll put links to everything in the show notes below. But looking forward to having you back on again soon.
I love talking with you, Amory. You're amazing, and I really do. I don't even feel like, I feel like we're just friends talking. This is like a blast.
In some ways, we're just getting started, but it's already been the episode. But thank you so much, Joni. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. One thing we didn't mention, we have a tool.
Oh, the Galactic calendar. Yeah, I've got a version of it. Dude, it's actually very, very helpful to know what you're going through when you're going through it. It plugs direct. I live out of my Gmail. So, sorry, I should let you talk about it. I really appreciate it.
I love my Galactic planner because I just thought, wait a minute, we've been talking about the school. The planner is also a tool for learning astrology because what it does, and I devised this with my son, and I always tell the story, but those that hadn't heard my story before, I'm going to give it. This is a true story. I would give him predictions all the time, and he would put them in his phone, in his calendar. And one time I told him, make a really long story short, that he was going to meet his wife on a particular day. Well, he did. He actually showed it to her on his phone. I'm surprised she didn't leave. So my mom's an astrologer. She said, I'd meet you today. That was love at first sight. They did end up getting married. Years later, he said, Mom, why don't we make this for everyone? And I said, that's great because I can't do readings for everyone in the world. Let me do something where everyone can have access to their transiting planets and their dashas. This will calculate everyone's personal chart. And I wrote all the transits descriptions of every planetary aspect in every house. It is not AI. AI is a mess with astrology. It's incorrect. This is all my doings. And I also got my student partner, Shri, to help me write the dashas. So that was over 10,000 descriptions that we wrote. Or she did most of that. I wrote all the transits. And so what I'm trying to say is the Galactic Planner, anyone can get this. And not only does it calculate your chart and give you all the transits, but it's downloaded into your calendar every day so you know what transits are happening. And if you know no astrology, I give the descriptions of what each day will bring. For the good things to look into, is it a day for travel? Is it a day to meet people? A day to plan your business meetings, or is it a day to lay low and not go anywhere and avoid your partners, avoid arguments and things like that? It does all this. And I think it is the most valuable tool out there. I have to say, I'm very, very proud of it. And tell me your experience with it. You've been using it.
Well, it's nice to sort of see what's going, because I mean, it's very helpful just to sort of see when things are going in and out, like the moon and stuff like this, just to sort of know what's happening. Because I think living in more urban environments, we're disconnected from even being able to look up at the night sky and see what's happening. So I've noticed it's just kept me connected to just this awareness of astrology, and it's kept me more grounded through these periods as well. So I found that actually really potent. And also there's something to be said. It's really helpful having an astrologer read your reading. Like, obviously that, 45 years worth of experience, there's also something about you understanding like a little bit around the astrology, and the calendar helps with that, because you can read the interpretation, but you can also understand the planets and sort of what's moving. And then over time, you can build your own relationship with last time Jupiter did that, I felt this, and so you build a bit more of your own relationship with, and it's not to discount that, astrologers, but you also build this intimacy with your own relationship with, this is how Jupiter impacts me, let's say. So for me, I know Jupiter expands things for me, but it's also very gaseous. So I don't want to sound like it doesn't have substance, but it's not as dense, So when it triggers something in my chart, it's like, that really comes to light, but it's not going to rock me to my bones, if that makes sense, touch wood. And so that's something that I've learned, but that intimacy is only really afforded through spending the time and, today was a good day for this, or today was, I was challenged by this, and then opening up your calendar and just going, right, that transit was in play today. How interesting, There was a day a couple of weeks ago where we sold our old car and my old laptop, and it just, money just came in, touch wood. And I was like, what is it about today? Opened up the Galactic calendar. I can't remember what was going on, but I remember looking, going, so today was a favorable day for prosperity, touch wood. Little things like this. So it's just nice to build that intimacy with your own astrological makeup and your own awareness, I guess, in terms of what's happening in those moments.
Yes. So there's only one of me. So now I wrote this so we can send this out to the world. And I'm very excited and proud and happy that I'm glad you're trying it out and experiencing it. I think it's one of the best tools out there, sincerely.
You inspired soul human being, you've made it through to the end of another incredible episode. Thank you so much for your inspirations to evolve. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your side. You've obviously enjoyed this video, so please do give it a like and a thumbs up. It votes for content like this being spread around the internet further, farther, wider, and richer. Thank you so much for supporting spirituality in a time like this. To all of you that are subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for your incredible love and support. Like I like to say, everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. So thank you so much for your incredible love and support. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, and join the movement, join the community, spreading love, positivity, clarity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. And you'll notice recently we hit 250,000 subscribers. That is 250,000 people inspired to evolve together, arms in arms, hands in hands, side by side, hearts and hearts together. To celebrate this, we're giving away access to the community online, Inspired Evolution /circle. We've launched a community to celebrate this milestone, and we're giving away access, so come join us. inspiredevolution.com /circle is the link. At the time of the giveaway, inspiredevolution.com /250000. That's 250,000. You can join us. I'll put links to all of that in the description below. We'd love to see you on the inside. To further the conversation, guests like Joni coming on once a month to answer questions directly of the audience in a live Zoom room. And you can connect with us. I meditate weekly with you. We do community offerings. There's questions and answers, community sharings. So much going on in this space. Come check it out for yourself using the link below. And to continue your inspirations flowing onwards, upwards, and inwards, on screen now, episodes for you to take your journey further. So go on, take your pick and make your click. I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you there.